and our educators go above and beyond every day. So if you are a current or former educator of Marshfield Public Schools, could you just stand up for a quick second?
What you just said. Former. You know what former means?
Thank you, folks, for
I think
everything.
I do.
Also want to say for the honorees, once we are wrapped up here, if you could just come up and stand with us for a minute. We need to take a couple photos of you with your plaques, so we could do that after Mr. Gardner's dedication. So just stick around for a little bit while we do that. Finally, I want to say that this is I hope you folks are enjoying the evening, because this is a really important program and one of our favorite things that we do. But in order for this to continue, obviously we thrive on nominations, and we need folks to take some time and nominate people. Nominations for this coming year are closed, but in the following months, we're going to be opening nominations up again for the class of 2023. Keep an eye out for that. We'll put it out on social media. We'll put it out through any other form of media we can. It's always in the superintendent's newsletter when that comes out. There are so many folks who are deserving of this honor, and you can give them the night that we're having here for these fine three individuals as well. And that's something that I hope these folks would agree is a really special thing. And we can do that for more people, but we need your help to do that. So please keep that in mind as we move forward. I'm going to bring up Mr. Pat Sullivan, who is a former Marshfield educator and is now the superintendent of schools in Cohasset, who will do Mr. Dick Gardner's.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just say how wonderful it is to be home in Marshfield. I do still live in Marshfield, but it's also wonderful to see so many faces of people who were really important to me when I was a teacher here. And I have to start by congratulating Marie and Bruce, who I did have the pleasure of crossing paths with during my years here at Marshfield, and they're the absolute best and so deserving of this award. So congratulations to both of you. I also want to acknowledge that Dick Gardner's son Tim is here with his girlfriend Melissa. Tim is filming for Dick's wife Joan and Dick's granddaughter Ruby. Ruby, as you're watching this, I want you to know that your grandfather is wonderful, very important, very important. So it's nice that they'll be able to see that. So it is certainly my distinct honor to speak on behalf of Dick Gardner. Dick, I was particularly moved when you asked me to speak, as you were my greatest mentor as a teacher and provided me with the most important influence regarding the type of educator I wanted to be and on what I might accomplish throughout my career. You hired me for my first teaching job some 26 years ago. Seems like a long time. And you spent a lot of time mentoring me, and I mean a lot of time. Reflecting, I certainly needed it. Although I never had the pleasure of having you as a teacher when I was a student at Marshfield High School, your reputation as an excellent teacher had me eager to learn from you. I immediately connected to your teaching style because of your love for music. For me and for Dick, love of music is not a hobby. To be precise, I believe that at times both of us think in popular music lyrics, which might sound a bit strange to those of you who don't know either of us well, but let's suffice it to say that lyrics and poetry help us to reflect, to empathize, to grieve, to create, to teach, and to encourage. At times in both our lives, music and poetry has been our greatest teacher and sometimes our best therapist. In addition, the word choice of songwriters and poets drew us to become teachers. Dick's students would realize a full menu of Bob Dylan, the band, Jon Stewart, not the talk show host, the Kingston Trio guy.
Yeah.
The Bush Stars, Randy Newman, the Beatles, Elvis Presley, Robert Johnson, Sly Stone, Janis Ian, Dave Alvin, Ellis Paul, and Pete Seeger, just to name a few, always connecting them to literature and to life. Dick, another of your qualities that inspired me as a teacher is your unparalleled ability to share your emotions on a subject to help others connect to the literature. This often meant you opening up about your own life and how the literature reflected your past, your decisions, and your sense of self. As a young teacher, I trusted you. I was engaged by your teaching style, And I loved that you view teaching as an art form that should be practiced with the same intensity and love as a musician, painter, writer, or actor would show for their art. You also showed me quickly that in the long run, people often do their best work when they can be themselves and laugh. Dick is a naturally funny person who has quick wit and a diffusing way that makes him very easy to talk to. He creates a fun atmosphere wherever he goes, which is refreshing and empowering, whether you are a student or a teacher under his supervision. Dick's students were often laughing in class and could run the emotional spectrum as they were completely engaged with the material he was presenting. Student engagement is recognized as a major factor in learning, and Dick was an expert at it. And in terms of teaching creativity, Dick is with few peers. Dick, you were immediately a natural mentor for me. Therefore, when I started teaching, I did what I suppose we all do with our mentors. I copied him. Or I tried to anyway. Your teaching style spoke to me as a blueprint for how I could express what I thought was so beautiful about the amazing works of literature I was fortunate to teach every day. Dick found great connections in Death of a Salesman, The Stranger, Othello, King Lear, The Great Gatsby, Heart of Darkness, Disgrace, Things Fall Apart, even through a book like Mystery Train. Dick Gardner taught the American dream better than anyone, ever. And I'll guarantee that will be the case forever. In other works of literature, and he motivated me to attempt to inspire a love for these works in my students through my own connections. Of course, the challenge with trying to emulate Dick Gardner's teaching method is that for it to be effective, you first need to connect with your students, which requires that you are authentic. So as an English teacher, if you aren't prepared to be open, vulnerable, understanding, empathetic, questioning, and real with your students, you best stick to the textbooks, iambic pentameter, and the rules of Strunk and White, which, by the way, Dick taught too. But if you're willing to open up to your students and you dream big, you just might light a fire in them that will resonate long after you leave teaching. Thanks to Dick, I found my own voice as a teacher. I discovered that being authentic, open, analytical, and placing extra effort in the details of a lesson, another virtue that Dick taught me, led to rich dialogue, critical thinking, and deep investment in the work from the students. Dick, thank you for providing me with an example of what a master teacher looks like, for pushing me to meet a high standard, and for giving me the space to make mistakes and find my own voice. It takes more than a great teacher to do that. It takes a great person with patience, the ability to recognize potential, and did I mention patience? Lots of patience. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will say, as a kid who lost his dad early on in his life, to meet you in my 20s meant a lot more than teaching. So thank you for that as well. Due to his guidance and every role that I have been fortunate to play in education, I have attempted to replicate the Dick Gardner method of success. Be engaging and communicative. Open your heart. Share who you are. Show respect for those you teach and supervise. Leave room for autonomy and authentic expression. Place the students first. Go the extra mile to connect with the students. Expect high standards from your students and staff, and lead by example. When Dick retired in 2006, Jason Soslow, former MHS English teacher and current computer science teacher at Marshfield High School, opened a blog so that Dick's former students could pay tribute to Dick and wish him well during his retirement. The response to this blog was overwhelming. And the thanks and praise by Dick's former students, ranging from the mid-1970s to the early 2000s, reads like a retiring teacher's dream blog. If this blog were Mr. Gardner's opus, it would be a magnificent one. Here are just some of the comments from the blog. Mr. Gardner, you were the only teacher that has ever made me cry. Not because of an affront, false praise, or poor grade, but because I was so sad and scared to leave such a wonderful and warm environment that was your classroom. High school is never an easy time, but in senior English, we could be ourselves, be creative, silly, smart, and never feel like we didn't belong. You acknowledged everyone's gifts and unique contributions and made us feel at ease, a triumph I, at least, am eternally grateful for. Mr. Gardner, do you remember when we stood in our chairs? Because if we had stood on those desks like they did in the movie, we would have tumbled to the floor. And greeted you with, "Oh, Captain, my Captain," like they had in the movie Dead Poets. You were shocked and touched, and you got all choked up and tried to play it off, but we knew that you knew how much you meant to us. So many lives have been changed because of you. You have truly lived a dream to make the difference in the lives of thousands of children. Mr. Gardner, you told me that what I had to say was important. You told me that I mattered. You have no idea how much that 17-year-old girl needed to hear those things. You used your humor to grab our attention. You gave us grace when we were jackasses. Your dedication to growth and understanding made us feel safe and comfortable enough to take risks. Mr. Gardner, I am a better person for having known you. I use that every day. I am a better musician and lover of music for having seen your eyes fill up over an Ellis Paul song. I use that every day. As for writing, I believe I was able to become a writer only because of you, because you looked me in the eye and told me I could. And I use that every day. But I don't aspire to a parting blog such as this when I reach my own retirement. I don't know anyone who could. You are that unique, so know that. If greatness can be measured in the number of people you personally affect with love and grace, and I believe it can, then today I think you must be the greatest man there is. You're the best teacher I ever had at any level, and I'm just one in a sea of lucky others who are with you every day and you with us. And sometimes, the art Dick shared with students to help them connect to the literature they were reading actually impacted the artists who created the art in the first place, as is evident in this blog entry. I have been fortunate enough to be able to tour the country as a musician for the past 10 years. I actually have met this person, and it's more than 10 years now, and it's still happening. And a couple of years ago, I noticed a strange pattern of meeting eager-eyed kids who would say the same thing to me. My teacher introduced me to your music. And suddenly I realized it wasn't hundreds of teachers playing underground music for their students, but rather one named Dick Gardner in Massachusetts. And I've met so many of these nice ex-students of his in all parts of the country. But the amazing thing to me is that they seemingly took what he taught them, or rather introduced them to, and kept it close to their hearts and embraced it. That's the kind of teacher that comes once in a lifetime. And that's Chris Trapper, who's the lead singer of a rock band called the Push Stars. Dick was so loved and respected by his students that he received, as I think Sean had mentioned, a still unmatched, to my knowledge, 5 yearbook dedications. But what's really impressive, it's in 4 different decades. So you can see, and even that blog, you can see its consistent themes across all 4 decades, which is in itself an amazing feat in my book. He got the yearbook from the MHS classes of 1976, 1983, 1988, 1995, and 2001, and for the right reasons. He connected to his students outside of the classroom in many ways throughout his career, including his many years of non-paid high school golf coaching, his 8 consecutive years as class advisor work with the classes of 1980 and 1984, his expertise along with Mr. Zico at the senior field day egg toss. Didn't think I knew that. I didn't. So, and his several stellar performances with other teachers at the high school air guitar contest. I believe I remember a Neil Young performance of, is it 10 Men Working?
Yes.
Yes. A large number of his former students have gone on to be teachers, writers, artists, and educational leaders and innovators in their chosen fields. Most importantly, Dick Gardner helped countless students become good human beings. Dick had a saying which he shared with all his students: don't take any wooden nickels. This tongue-in-cheek phrase, which could seem out of time by someone who did not have Dick as a teacher, was often quoted by his students because they realized that Dick was telling them to dream big and audaciously, to stand up for what is right, and to live their lives authentically and to the beat of their own drum, all the beliefs that Dick showed by example through his own teaching. As Dick quoted to his students in the words of Chris Trapper from his song Lack of Motion, "No, I don't care if you're a millionaire or you're sleeping in the street in a box somewhere, just love each step you make and take them standing tall." Thank you, Dick, for inspiring 4 decades of students. Congratulations on this wonderful and well-deserved honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dick Gardner.
I don't know how I follow that. I honestly don't. You know, I thought I'd start off by saying something about Jerry Morris that I didn't realize you were older than Bruce Davenport. but I found that out tonight. My hearing aids are just pulsating right now. I can't believe what you had to say there, Pat. It's just mind-boggling to me. Basically, what I want to do is thanks and recognition. I should tell you, my wife, Joan, who was a guidance counselor in Somerville for over 30 years, told me before I flew up here yesterday, she said, "Don't get emotional." He said, "Don't say any corny, stupid jokes like you always do." I said, "Okay, so I should just get up there and stand there and do nothing." That's about what I had at that point. To be serious for a few minutes, I want to thank my first wife, Janet, because without her encouragement and willingness, I could not have gone back to school. My father had passed away when I was 19, and I had been out of school for 8 years. And with her support and her family, I was able to go back, and I wouldn't have been a teacher if it wasn't for her. Yeah. Sorry, Tim. My wife, Joan, my first wife had MS, the worst kind, for 30 years. And she was a profile in real human courage. And now my wife, Joan, she's my best friend. She brings joy into my life every single day. And unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight, which is kind of a downer for me because she's recovering from back surgery and couldn't fly up here. We live in Florida. My granddaughter Ruby, who I wanted to speak directly to her tonight, she got COVID in school this weekend. She can't be here. And so I'm going to talk tonight as if she was here. Pat told me that maybe this honor was long overdue. With total respect to my friend Fred Podbelski, who was honored a month ago, I'm just glad that I didn't receive this honor posthumously. The clock is ticking. I've been retired for 60 years. I'm on the back nine and just don't know what hole I'm playing. I want to thank people who nominated me or wrote references. As Karen Muir was mentioned earlier, I think class secretary, class of 1984. Keezer Bacon, trusted friend, former student, sitting over there at the table. And the mayor of Marshfield, and the president of the class of 1976, Chuck Haddad, who I couldn't wait to see tonight, called in this afternoon. He told me, "Hey Dick, I'm in Hilton Head. I'm not going to be able to be in." He said, "I wrote you a reference. The hell else do you want?" Said, "My sons are going to be running this thing, so I hope the food's good." Sean said you have 5 to 7 minutes to speak. Well, I live in Southwest Florida, and Hurricane Ian hit us right on. I had to fly up here from 1,500 miles. The airport was closed at Fort Myers Airport on Tuesday all day long because of a problem with a plane, and I had to go home again and then come back. I asked White Boots Governor Ronnie DeSantis if I could have a free flight up to Martha's Vineyard. He refused because he found out that my wife and I have bleep friends. If you know anything about Ronnie DeSantis, you can't say bleep when you're in Florida. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, they have a can't say gay rule law that just passed in Florida. And Ronnie doesn't like you to say things like that. So that's why he wouldn't fly me out. So I tried to figure out how to frame my talk tonight, and I think I'll call it 4 principals and 1 department head. My first principal was James Rogers. I believe that was his name, I hope. He was my principal for 4 months. He retired the day before Christmas vacation. And I was one of, this is gonna be hard for you to believe, but I was one of 7 new teachers in a department of 16 people my first year. And let's put it this way, Mr. Rogers never knew who I was. Now, right after Christmas vacation, I had a new principal, but I'm going to jump way ahead to my last 2 years before I retired. And my last principal was Bob Cuther. And let me try to summarize. Bob Cuther came to Marshfield. He was the principal of Quincy High School. I am a proud graduate, the class of 1962 of North Quincy High School. Very, very heated rivals. Do the math. Bob is one of those motto for the year kind of guys. At least he was back then. And in his first year, his motto and words to live by was deserving victory. Okay, Bob is one of those, and I assume he still is, obnoxious Yankee fans.
We're still playing.
Finally, tell me how many times you've won the World Series in this century.
27.
No, that's not the question. So, Bob, just to rattle us, would come to department head meetings wearing a Yankees jersey, just to taunt us. Let's go back to 1974. I'm sorry. It's very confusing there for a second. 2004. And the Yankees were leading the ALCS 3-0. Next, it was 3-1. And then it was 3-2. And then it was 3-3. After game 4 that everybody in this room knows the result of, I went up early, parked 2 parking spaces away from Bob's spot, waited. When he got out of the car, I jumped out of mine, and I walked up and I said to him, Bob, 2 words, deserving victory. I have some other stories, but I'll just leave them. Okay, now back to the thrilling days of yesteryear. And after Christmas vacation, and John Erickson was my second principal. Now, I always liked John, still do. John was the first person to interview me for the job in Marshfield. And it was at some headhunter's place in Hingham. And so I sat down and talked to him. I had already interviewed at 4 other schools. I had interviewing down as far as I was concerned. And John started the interview, and I was nailing that baby. I was just banging it out. It was incredible. He cut me short after about 10 minutes. He said, we're looking for a man in the English department. He says, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to recommend you. He says, I just have to, he says, you have to go to an interview with Virginia Ross, department head. He said, I'm sure you'll be in there. So I went and I interviewed with her, and I got the job. So I guess I owe it all to gender bias and some weird form of affirmative action long before either of those things were even a thing. But that's how I got here. Well, Virginia Ross, the department head. Virginia was a taskmaster, to say the least. She had a curriculum philosophy that was basically quantity will lead to mastery. As long as you put in your 60 hours a week, and then at home, work even harder for basically doing $100,000 of a year of work for $8,200, you were fine. I had a tremendous amount of respect for Virginia. She taught me a lot. She mentored me to be her successor when she retired, and I can't thank her enough, but I will say one thing. When I think back in Virginia, it's whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. She was tough, for those of you who know. Then, in 1982, John Erickson resigned, and I had the longest reigning high school principal, Peter Deftos, as my new principal. That was the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I cannot imagine, no offense, Bob, I cannot imagine a better principal. Peter Deftos loved Marshfield. He loved Marshfield High School. He loved the kids. He loved, mentored, and protected his teachers. Peter was just, he was instrumental in me becoming the new department head. Peter and I had always been good friends, but then we became very, very, very close friends and each other's confidant. I loved Peter Deftos like a brother. He would come into my office every single day and he'd say, "Hey, God, everything okay?" And I'd say, "Yep." And if it wasn't, he fixed it. I will not say anything about the way he butchered the English language like no one in the history of the world. But when Peter went on the public address system at the end of the day, kids listened to see what he was going to say next. And if any of you want to hear some of his classics, see me afterwards because I could go on forever. One especially about my son. Next, my department. I don't say that out of possessiveness. I say it out of awe and pride. When I took over, I know they were going to be wondering what kind of a leader is this guy going to be. Well, I was a completely different kind of department head, and they gave me 100% support. And what they did was they went out there every single day and did the job as well as they did before. And they just gave 100%. They were fantastic people. I don't know if he remembers this because my ears perked up. But at the interview at the open school committee meeting, Bob Cuther mentioned that one of the reasons he wanted to come to Marshfield was because he wanted to have the opportunity to work with me and my department because of the reputation we have of teaching writing. At the time, I was surprised, but I have to tell you, Bob, I think it was a really good decision on your part. Now, they ask you, what was it the committee, I believe that's what is it that you're most proud of as a teacher? Why do you think you deserve to be in the Wall of Honor? Well, this was a slam dunk for me. It's definitely the teachers that I hired. Pat Sullivan, perfect example. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now that that's probably was my biggest strength, was being able to recognize somebody in an interview, to be able to tell what a great teacher they were going to be. And I'm really proud of the fact that so many have gone on to administrative positions, like Pat Sullivan. You heard about his background. And Rock Roberts, who I think what is he, the curriculum coordinator of the Braintree Public Schools? And Jason Soslow, who went on to become, I think, technology director of the Marshfield Public Schools. And someone who was here for 1 year at Marshfield High School, Jeremy Roach, who we all loved and wanted him to stay, but his girlfriend wanted him to go back to Central Massachusetts. So guess who won that one? He's now the principal of Fitchburg High School. And I'm very, very pleased to say that, with the exception of Jeremy, everyone that who I hired, was still there in 2006 when I retired. But I'd be remiss if I didn't point out one person for singly, and that's Jen Sarney.
I'll do that, Jen.
Yes, I will, Jen. Jen Sarney, she was smart enough not to keep the name Hickey in high school. But Jen is the first person I ever interviewed for a job. Obviously the first person I hired, and she just blew me out of the water. And when she then interviewed with me and Peter Deftos, she amazed him because he had already decided that the second person, we'd go with 3 finalists. The second person, he said, he's it. We needed a lacrosse coach. He was a very, very good, he interviewed incredibly well. Bob, I believe, I can't remember his name, I believe he student taught at Quincy High School, which is usually 6 to 8 weeks. He had been the lacrosse coach at UMass Boston. Peter Deftos asked him, what's the best thing that happened to you when you were student teaching? You ready for this answer? I got the yearbook dedication from the school, from the class of whatever it was, student teacher. Jen Sarney just, when she came in, that was the end of him. You know why I'm really thankful to her? Because she trusted me. She had other opportunities for full-time jobs, and she took a half-time job at Marshfield High School. And I told her she'd be full-time, second year. She was. And now a mastery teacher is approaching 30 years at Marshfield High School. Okay. My son Tim, when I was retiring, he wanted nothing more than the Marshfield and the English department student writing lab, computer lab, to be named after me. He knew that a language lab had been named after a retiring department head, that a science wing had been named after a retiring department head. And he wanted my name to be somewhere in his, etched in stone, in his alma mater for posterity. Well, Tim, that high school isn't there anymore. That language lab, writing lab, isn't there anymore. But I'm on the wall of honor right now, and I wanted it for you. Not about me, it's about you. And also my granddaughter Ruby, who, as I said earlier, couldn't be here. And we live in Florida. I don't see her that much, maybe 3 times a year. During COVID, it was all on FaceTime. She doesn't know us as well as she knows her other grandparents. Yeah, I'm the guy who chased her around when she was younger playing hide and seek. And I'm the guy that was amazed at her gymnastics moves and her improving swimming. But that's not the thing that I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of the way she read excerpts from Charlotte's Web to me. I'm so proud of the way her teachers taught her how to read and how well she learned. And I want her to know that reading is the most important skill you're going to have as you move on in life, to be able to be a lifelong learner and to be able to be successful. My wife told me not to be emotional, or asked me not to be. Jerry said something about emotional intelligence. Well, the intelligence part's going out the window. Someday, Ruby, you're going to know that I'm not just that guy that played hide and seek with you. I actually did something in my life that people considered, appreciated, and they considered that I was deserving of this honor. And someday when you're older, and you're driving through Marshfield, and you, with your dad or friends, or maybe with your own kids, you can come up and you can point to that wall and you can say, that is or was my grandfather. He was a teacher. And I'm proud to say that he was my grandfather.
Wow. Do you have any tissues left? Outstanding, everybody. How about one more round of applause for all three of our Well, we've reached the end of our program. I've got one more person to bring up here and just say a few words. So I want to just say one more time, thank you all very much for being here and joining us tonight. Mrs. Pazerski will kill me if I don't say, please take the centerpieces home. If you'd like the centerpiece on your table, please take that with you. Pat Sullivan, whose speech was outstanding, mentioned that oftentimes we do this thing where we try and emulate our mentors. And sometimes it works and sometimes it does not, but we do that, and so I'd like to introduce you to mine, the State Director for U.S. Senator Ed Markey, Jim Cantwell.
Thank you, Sean. That's very sweet, and it is so difficult to follow. Dick, what an amazing job with your presentation tonight. And I just wanted to come back home. As a child of Marshall Public Schools, just always such an honor to see so many wonderful educators. I'm the son of an educator, as Karen knows, and Jerry and Bruce, since you all got with my mom. And I think what you all do every day, and you did throughout your careers, and my mom too, about teaching children the greatest gift in life, teaching little ones the gift of how to read. And I wanted to come here tonight. First, Sean, thank you, Bridget, and all the educators here for creating this Wall of Fame. I know it was your idea, so it's just amazing to be able to recognize folks here. Because, how many of you have ever seen the movie Mr. Holland's Opus? Richard Dreyfuss and the idea of people coming back, and it's such an honor for me to be able to come back here, because I had Bruce Davenport as one of my earliest teachers who I remember over at Grace Rider, and Jerry, the two of you together. I still can sing by memory Christmas in Killarney. But I knew from then, learning that I would love the idea to be a teacher, which I'm going to come back to, but learning from you, first male teacher I had, you made such a great impression. Dick Gardner, having English, the love of English language, and the idea that the whole program that you and Mrs. Ross ran, and I said, gee, that would be a great thing, just to try to learn to write. Later on in life, Michael Hearn, by the way, and Mick Morris, the ones who inspired me for politics. And then Marie Kerman, for all the things that you've done, former Citizen of the Year, by the way, Marie. But with you and Joni Pazerski, just of what you do with the We Are Marshall program. And the reminder is we hit the cosmic lottery when we got to live here in Marshall, go to school here in Marshall, and it's a testament to these three folks here tonight. I have citations from the U.S. Senate. But when I mentioned, by the way, Bruce, about my thought of wanting to be a teacher, I learned at one point, my mom, as we said, was a teaching vice principal, Karen, with your dad, with Fred. And at one point, she was in charge of getting the substitute teachers, and I got the chance to be a substitute. It's one of these nationwide searches, right, to have a substitute teacher. And I came in one day, and there was a lesson plan there, and it was saying that they give out this exam to the students will take about 25, 50 minutes, maybe, long period of time for a math exam. But one little boy, Kevin Degnan, was going to be the brilliant one. And Kevin Degnan was going to get done in 10 minutes, which would take almost an hour or 50 minutes for everyone else. So I certainly did that, gave out, and after he was done, the thing was to call him up front, and they said in the lesson plan, take out, there's a map that had every state in the union, and I was supposed to, without the names, I'd point to the state, he'd have to say the name of the state, and then the capital. Okay, well, how many times have you done that recently, by the way? Could you do it? So I call him up, and I'm pointing to these different states, and then say, what's the thing? He gets, I'm going on the eastern sides, I'm doing and finally we get like 35 states, and he's getting them all like this. Kevin's brilliant, and we get to Nevada, and I say, what state is Nevada? And I said, what's the capital? He says, Carson City. I said, no. I said, no. I said, no, it's Reno. And he goes, well, Mr. Campbell, the answer's in the back of the book. So he's flipping through the back. And I realized this kid's brilliant. Boom, boom, boom. He was, I think you were teaching too, Bruce, at one point, all these folks. So I know he's going to be right. So he gets to the back of the book and he says, see, Mr. Campbell, it says in the book here, the capital of Nevada is Carson City. And I say, oh, when was that book published? Because when I was a kid, it used to be Reno. Right? So after that, I learned I could never be a teacher. So I decided it was time to go into politics. And for politics, on behalf of Senator Ed Markey, we have, if you could please come forward, Bruce, Marie, and Dick, if you could please come forward. We have a citation for each of you from Senator Ed Markey, who signed them tonight. That's one reason I was a little late, but just wanted to congratulate each one of you here right now. Take them all.
That's all right, I'll take his.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you, everybody, very much for being with us tonight. On behalf of all of Marshfield Public Schools, we greatly appreciate your presence here, and we greatly appreciate you taking time to honor these three fantastic individuals. We look forward to seeing you at our next Wall of Honor ceremony for that class once it will be announced shortly. Thank you very much.